Today's video is actually going to be the first installment of a 3-part special where we will go on a deep dive and uncover the history of witchcraft in as much detail as possible, starting from 9000 BC and going all the way up to the modern day. Because I don't know about you, but I'm desperate to arm myself with a full understanding as to why hatred against witchcraft, or more specifically women, became such a widespread issue across the entirety of Europe. Today we're going to go back as far as we possibly can, right back to around 9000 BC, in a time before much of our history was even written down, and we only have fragments of archaeology that tell us any kind of information about our ancestors from so long ago. From around 9000 BC to 3000 BC, we have a whole myriad of evidence of potential religious practices, idol worship, and special historical sites of religious or cultural significance that act as a kind of calendar or marking of the harvest seasons throughout the year, or the movement of the stars in the cosmos. Whilst not specifically pertaining to witchcraft, it's fascinating to think about that so long ago our ancestors believed in something other than ourselves and the world around us, and that they, much like the witches of the modern day, may have believed in a mother goddess, or performed rituals to honour the harvest season, or performed magical spells to aid in healing. Let's explore some of the most earliest examples of this. Göbekli Tepe is an archaeological site located in southeastern Turkey, known for its impressive megalithic structures. The site dates back to around 9000 BC, making it one of the world's oldest known temples, predating even Stonehenge by around 5000 years. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe are adorned with carvings of animals and abstract symbols, and they are believed to have had significant religious and spiritual importance. The exact nature of the beliefs or practices is not fully understood, but it's clear that the site was used for some form of ritual or ceremonial purposes. There is no direct evidence linking the site to witchcraft, but its use in rituals suggests a complex spiritual life among the people who built it. Next we have Nabta Playa, a remarkable archaeological site located in the Nubian desert in southern Egypt. It's known for its prehistoric megalithic structures, including a stone circle that is often referred to as the African Stonehenge. This site dates back to approximately 7500 BC, making it one of the earliest known astronomical observatories. The stone circle at Nabta Playa was used to mark the summer solstice, which was critical for the timing of the monsoon rains, and thus for the nomadic people who lived in the area. The arrangement of stones is believed to have had astronomical significance, aligning with certain stars at specific times of the year. Regarding the relation to religion or witchcraft, Nabta Playa is more closely associated with astronomy and early forms of organised religion or ritual practices related to the cycles of nature. The site's significance lies more in its role in the understanding of the stars and seasons, which were crucial for survival in a harsh desert environment. We also have Catalhoyuk, one of the most significant and well-preserved Neolithic sites, located in the present-day Konya Plain in Turkey. It dates back to approximately 7500 BC to 5700 BC, providing a fascinating insight into early human civilization. The site is renowned for its intricate wall paintings, sculptures and reliefs. Among the most notable artifacts is the figure often referred to as the seated goddess or seated woman. This figurine depicts a corpulent female sitting on a throne flanked by 2 feline figures, which has been interpreted by some as a mother goddess, suggesting a possible link to early forms of religious worship. The connection between Catalhoyuk and religion is quite strong, as the site contains numerous shrines and figurines that indicate a rich spiritual life. The inhabitants appear to have practiced a form of ancestor worship, as evidenced by the burial practices within the dwellings. However, the link to witchcraft is not quite as clear. When searching for any connection to witchcraft or spiritual practices in the past, we should definitely mention the Cucuteni-Trypillian Culture, a Neolithic archaeological culture that existed from approximately 5500 BC to 2750 BC in what is now parts of Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine. This culture is known for its distinctive pottery and large settlements, some of which were among the largest in the world at the time. The figurines from this culture are often female and are thought to represent a mother goddess or fertility deity, indicative of a possible matrilineal society or a focus on fertility and agriculture. They are typically made of clay and are notable for their intricate designs and patterns. They may have been used in ceremonies related to fertility, the cycle of life and death, or the changing of the seasons. As for witchcraft, While there's no direct evidence linking the figurines to what we would consider witchcraft today, they may have been part of rituals that sought to influence natural events or personal fortunes, which could be seen as a form of proto-witchcraft or sympathetic magic. The Hongshan culture was a Neolithic culture in northeastern China, dating from about 4700 to 2900s BC. It's known for its jade artifacts and the practice of pig dragon carving. Religion and spirituality played significant roles in the Hongshan culture. Archaeological findings suggest that the people of this culture may have practiced a form of shamanism. They left behind many jade artifacts that are believed to have been used in religious rituals, possibly to communicate with the spiritual world or ancestors. The connection to witchcraft is not explicitly documented, but the shamanistic practices could be interpreted as a form of witchcraft by modern standards. Shamans were likely regarded as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds, capable of influencing both through their rituals and artifacts. Speaking of religious practices, Monte d-Accoddi is a prehistoric site located in Sardinia, Italy, and it's particularly famous for its unique stepped pyramid, which is one of the earliest known examples in Europe. Dating from around 4000 BC, the site includes a massive raised platform, which is believed to have served as an altar or a place for religious ceremonies. The original purpose of the structure is still debated among archaeologists, but it's widely accepted that it had a significant religious function, possibly for worship or for astronomical observations. The connection to witchcraft is not directly established, but like many ancient religious sites, Monte d-Accoddi might have been a place where rituals that we might now label as witchcraft were performed. These could include various rites of passage, offerings, or other ceremonies intended to influence the gods or natural forces. Newgrange is a prehistoric monument in County Meath, Ireland, located in the Boyne Valley. It is an impressive passage tomb built during the Neolithic period, around 3200 BC, making it over 5,000 years old, which is older than Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. The site is known for its remarkable architectural design, particularly its alignment with the rising sun during the winter solstice. As the sun rises, its light floods the main passageway and illuminates the inner chamber, a phenomenon that has attracted much attention and speculation about its significance and purpose. The Mehrgarh Figurines are a collection of terracotta sculptures discovered at the Mehrgarh site, which is one of the earliest farming villages of the Indus Valley civilization. Located in the Balochistan province of Pakistan, these figurines date back to the Neolithic period, around 3000 BC. These artifacts are significant as they provide insight into the early human settlement and cultural practices in the region. The figurines often depict animals and human figures which may have represented deities or been used in religious rituals. Some of the human figurines appear to be female and are thought to represent a mother goddess or fertility deity, suggesting a possible religious belief in a female divinity that was central to the community's agricultural practices. Stonehenge is one of the most famous prehistoric monuments in the world, located in Wiltshire, England. It consists of a ring of standing stones, each around 13 feet high, 7 feet wide, and weighing approximately 25 tons. The construction of Stonehenge is estimated to have been completed in several stages, with the earliest known construction activities at the site dating back to about 3000 BC. The purpose and use of Stonehenge have been subjects of much speculation and research. It is widely believed to have been used as an astronomical observatory or a religious site. The alignment of the stones with the movements of the sun, particularly during the solstices, indicates a sophisticated understanding of celestial events by the builders. There is no direct evidence to suggest that Stonehenge was used for witchcraft. However, like many ancient sites, it has been surrounded by myths and legends over the centuries. In modern times, it has become a focal point for neo-pagan and New Age ceremonies, some of which involve practices that people might associate with witchcraft or earth-based spirituality. Whilst we have found many prehistoric examples of potential religious or spiritual practices that may have some vague link to what we know today to be witchcraft, we actually get some more solid evidence of witchcraft existing in the ancient world, mostly through the form of written texts, including local laws and regulations. The Sumerian civilization, one of the earliest known civilizations, has left behind a wealth of texts from around 3000 BC. These cuneiform texts are some of the oldest written records in human history. Among these texts there are references to practices that could be interpreted as witchcraft, although the concept might not align perfectly with modern understandings of the term. In Sumerian society, certain rituals and incantations were performed that could be seen as magical or supernatural. These practices were often aimed at protection, healing, and sometimes cursing. The Sumerian word asipu could be translated as sorcerer or exorcist, and these individuals were thought to have the power to interact with the divine or supernatural realm. It's important to note that the understanding of witchcraft in the context of Sumerian culture should be viewed through the lens of their religious and mythological worldviews, which were deeply integrated into their daily lives and state functions. The texts that mention these practices provide us with a fascinating glimpse into the spiritual life of the Sumerians and their beliefs about the cosmos and human interaction with the divine. Magic and the supernatural were integral parts of their worldview. They believed that every aspect of the natural world was imbued with divine presence and that magic was a way to interact with these forces. The Sumerians did not distinguish between what we would call magic and religion. Instead, their rituals, incantations, and divinations were all part of a cohesive spiritual practice. Magic was seen as a tool for various purposes, such as healing, protection against demons, and ensuring success in personal endeavours or state affairs. The supernatural was not seen as something separate from their daily life, but was interwoven with the mundane. Deities, demigods, and spirits were thought to influence every aspect of life, from the fertility of the land to the outcome of battles. Sumerian incantations, known as namsub, were a series of spells and rituals that served various purposes, from healing and protection to cursing and exorcism. These incantations were often written in cuneiform on tablets and included detailed instructions for rituals, including the materials to be used, the timing, and the specific words to be recited. Here are some examples of the types of incantations that were common in Sumerian texts. Healing incantations. These were used to cure illnesses and were often directed at specific deities associated with healing, such as Ninisina, the goddess of healing. Protective spells, to safeguard individuals from evil spirits or misfortune. Protective incantations were recited, sometimes accompanied by the creation of amulets or the use of symbolic objects. Agricultural blessings, incantations to ensure the fertility of the land and the abundance of crops were common, invoking the blessings of gods like Enlil and Ninurta. Love spells, though less common, there were also incantations aimed at attracting love or ensuring the fidelity of a partner. The actual texts of these incantations are complex and often difficult to translate accurately due to the age and condition of the tablets, as well as the esoteric language used in them. Ancient Egyptian texts from around 1800s BC, particularly the Middle Kingdom period, provide fascinating insights into magical practices of the time. These texts often come in the form of spells, rituals, and incantations intended to protect individuals, heal illnesses, or achieve specific outcomes through supernatural means. One of the most significant of these texts is the coffin texts, which are a collection of funerary spells written on the inside of coffins. The spells were meant to protect the deceased and ensure their safe passage into the afterlife. They include a variety of magical practices, such as the use of amulets, the invocation of deities, and the performance of magical rites. Another important text is the Papyrus Harris I, which contains a long narrative describing the magical practices of a priest named Wenamun. It includes detailed accounts of rituals and the use of magical objects. These texts reflect the Egyptians' belief in the power of magic to influence the natural world and the afterlife. They also show the role of priests and magicians, who were considered intermediaries between the gods and the people, capable of harnessing divine powers for protection, healing, and guidance. These magical practices were taken very seriously and were an integral part of the religious and cultural life in ancient Egypt, demonstrating the civilization's complex relationship with the divine and the mystical. The Hittite Laws from around 1300s BC are a fascinating part of ancient Near Eastern legal history. These laws were inscribed on clay tablets and covered various aspects of daily life, including magical practices. The Hittites, who lived in what is now modern-day Turkey, had a complex system of rituals and believed that magic could be used for both beneficial and harmful purposes. Their laws regarding magic reflect this dual nature. For instance, they made distinctions between different types of magic and the intentions behind them. Some laws were aimed at regulating the use of black magic, which was intended to harm others, and prescribed severe punishments for those caught practicing it. Conversely, white magic used for healing or protection was often sanctioned. The laws also address the roles of individuals involved in magical practices such as priests, diviners, and ritual specialists. This indicates that the Hittites had a sophisticated understanding of magic as a regulated aspect of their religious and social life. In 186 BC, the Roman Senate issued a decree known as the Senatus Consultum de Bacchanalibus, which was a direct response to the Bacchanalia rites. The Bacchanalia were religious festivals dedicated to the Greco-Roman god Bacchus, known to the Greeks as Dionysus, associated with wine, freedom, intoxication, and ecstatic worship. The Senate's decree was apparently a result of concerns over the secretive nature of the Bacchanalian cult, which was believed to engage in various excesses and illicit activities, and the fear that it might undermine Roman authority. The decree effectively outlawed the Bacchanalia throughout the Roman Republic, imposing strict regulations on their conduct and severely limiting the number of participants allowed to gather for such rites. The decree is a significant historical event as it reflects the Roman Senate's approach to maintaining public order, as well as its willingness to intervene in local pagan practices. It also highlights the tension between Roman state control and private religious worship during the Republic era. Witchcraft in ancient Roman society was a complex matter. It was often intertwined with religion and superstition, and its perception varied greatly. On one hand, practices that we might classify as witchcraft were part of everyday life for many Romans. This included the use of charms, spells, and divination. However, there was a darker side to witchcraft that was feared and condemned. It was associated with malevolent magic, curses, and harmful potions. The Lex Cornelia de Sicarii e Beneficis, by criminalising witchcraft, particularly highlighted this negative aspect. It reflected concerns about individuals using supernatural means to cause harm to others, which was seen as a serious threat to the social order. This law, written in 81 BC, didn't necessarily target all forms of what might be considered magical practices, but rather those perceived as harmful. It's important to note that the line between acceptable religious rites and illicit magic could be quite blurry, and accusations of witchcraft might sometimes stem from personal vendettas or political maneuvering. In essence, while certain benign aspects of witchcraft were normalized in daily life and religious practice, the Lex Cornelia aimed to curb the dangerous elements that could undermine the fabric of Roman society. It's a fascinating reflection of the tensions between tradition, religion, and the law in ancient Rome. From the very beginnings of civilization as we know it, our ancestors were performing rituals and practices in order for survival, such as creating astronomical observatories such as the Stonehenge in Africa, to marking the cycles of nature, the seasons and the solstices with the Stonehenge in England and the sacrificial altar in Italy. There were depictions of various gods and goddesses, more notably the latter, to perhaps represent Mother Nature, fertility, and the cycles of life and death. Our ancestors also practiced magic and witchcraft in some form, whether they were communicating with the spirit world and their ancestors in China as far back as 4700 BC, or the Sumerian Asipu performing magic for healing, or the ancient Egyptians inscribing coffin texts to protect their loved ones and give them safe passage to the afterlife. It's interesting that there seems to be a connection between witchcraft, religion, and day-to-day survival. That people were crafting spells and performing rituals to aid them in their fertility and their healing. It's also interesting to see a shift in societal opinions of magical practices and how the Romans began to crack down on pagan practices that didn't align with the empire. Whilst witchcraft was originally widely practiced amongst citizens, as time goes by, this becomes more and more controversial as religions change and empires grow stronger. In part 2, we discover exactly how quickly laws change as governments and religions evolve, and we can see a real shift from something originally widely practiced to becoming a condemned crime.